So, hi everyone. On my clock, it's actually the clock, but I still see the countdown to 1.5 minutes to go. So, are we actually good to go?
That's actually an hour and a half. I got the whole thing counting down.
Sorry. Well, then, officially welcome, I would say. It's nice to see that a lot of people are joining us. And actually, we were able to see in the sign-ups beforehand that people from basically all across the globe are joining us for this town hall meeting. The first one actually under a new board. More upon those details later. And as we intend always such a town hall meeting to be a quarterly thing, this is also the first one in 2026. But I think we're good to go and kickstart the official town hall. So Noah, if you could proceed with the slide. So yeah, my name is Jesse Rijtsma. As you can see right here in the slide, I'm actually not the chair, but the vice chair of the Magento Association board. And that's, I think, something I would like to explain a little bit later, because normally such a town hall meeting is always being opened up and stage is always set by the chair. But that's basically a little bit of an introduction. I'm still the vice chair in the board. And the next slide to introduce the town hall itself. Am I actually able to continue to the next slide? No, yep. The board, as it was started early this year in January, is Fatsal Shah as a chairman, myself as a vice chair, Sergey Tretsap as a treasurer, and those three are actually the officers of the board. And then you can also see that there's Noah, Laura, Vijay, Jakub, Ollie as a board member, and then as a special board member, Ritesh from Adobe. Now, the reason why I'm opening up all of this instead of actually Fatsal, the chair, is something I'm going to announce in a more official way. But before we actually get there into a couple of changes in the organization, I first wanted to basically say hi to everyone in the community. So that's following from this slide, the current board. But if we go to the next slide, I also want to say hi to Matthias and Jörg, who are hopefully also in this call. Definitely Matthias is. And it's not often mentioned, I think, in the past that many times, but Matthias and Jörg always do a lot of different duties in the background. They've been running the show of the Magento Association and presenting actually the Magento Association in multiple different events worldwide. There's the employees. I think actually if we sum up the board and the employees, we kind of get into the inner circle of the association, the Magento Association. But as we see it, there's actually a much wider community as well. The Magento Association is actually made up by different teams operating independently or sometimes together with other committees. Hopefully we get all of the committees that are actually there in the association with this single slide. So there's the marketing committee, there's the events committee, a community recognition program run by a separate committee as well, the documentation committee, and the membership committee, the community council. So I'm just naming all of them. And it's only that maybe the last one, the infrastructure committee, used to have a lot of activity in there. And that's basically also something we would love to revive. So of all of the different committees mentioned here, during this town hall meeting, you can expect different presentations by different people on the progress they make and on specific announcements if they have any. Now, still, we're not done yet, because the new board, we actually have a certain vision that we would like to carry out. And that's basically that the Magento Association, and maybe for that matter, Magento as a brand, is part of a much wider community. And first of all, there's the Magento ecosystem itself. So a lot of you that are joining here are part of that ecosystem, obviously. But we all know that Magento and Adobe are part of the same story. So therefore, we're also proud actually that a lot of Adobe people are joining in this town hall meeting, but also in the Magento Association to collaborate upon multiple different things. And then towards the right, you can also see that the Mage-OS Association is also part of that same story. And that has not been mentioned actually that many times in the past. we definitely want to point this out. And as part of this town hall, we're also pretty excited that David Lambauer, as part of Mage-OS, is going to present his part, explaining where Mage-OS is at. Just like Ritesh Somani is actually also presenting a little bit more about what is happening within Adobe. And with that, we kind of feel that the Magento Association, its story is much more opening up towards other ecosystems, other parts of the same community, because, well, face it, we're all into this together. It's all about Magento. So open source plays a role. Other e-commerce platforms are playing a role. And there's also other communities like the Hufa community that are definitely also part of the same ecosystem. So huge shout out basically to all that keep the Magento brand alive, and with that actually the technology. This is kind of like shaping a huge welcome, a huge overview of what is happening to the community and what's happening within Magento. But if we circle back things a little bit more towards why we have a town hall meeting, so the Magento Association stuff, there's actually multiple things that we need to announce before actually heading into different specificities of, I don't know, like the different committees that are there in Mage-OS and etc. And that's actually coming up now in a bit. But Noah, if you could already forward indeed to this slide. So the welcoming is up to this moment, but we start presenting actually on a wide range of different topics. Me starting actually with a couple of changes in the organization. And if you have any question upon that, we're using Slido as a means to gather all of the details. So there's an app link that is, I think, hardly readable unless you're really fast in typing, but it's much easier to scan the QR code if you have any questions. And on the other hand, maybe in the meetup that we have here, you can also type in your own questions in the chat. So yeah, welcome to all. We've got a busy agenda. What we're actually going to start with is a story that I've been introducing from the very first start already. A couple of changes actually within the Magento Association, which logically actually follows up by a story of Noah, who's going to talk more about how we move forward with the Magento Association, and with that actually also with Magento. We're going to talk about different roles, the accountability of all of those roles within the Magento Association, and also where we stand financially. And that's actually part of the story of Sergey as a treasurer of the association. But then actually we're not done yet. Well, hopefully we can go through that story pretty quickly, because actually the main story is always about what the Magento Association is actually accomplishing. And we've got numerous different projects, numerous initiatives we want to go through, including also presentation of Adobe, including a presentation of Mage-OS. So yeah, without further ado, let's just continue, but know that actually the agenda is heavy packed. So yeah, the story that I'm actually going to tell you is something that we went forth and back with within the board and the officers, so the people with a specific role within that board, like the chair and the vice chair and the treasurer. Whether I would be giving this presentation or not, but it has its reasons. So let's actually go with it. There's a couple of changes that we need to announce regarding the Magento Association. Next. Because, well, actually, what I wanted to mention first is that Vatsal actually needed to step back as a chair for personal reasons. And he's still in the board, as you can see right here. So Vatsal is still part of moving the Magento Association forward. But he was feeling actually that because of certain changes that the Magento Association is undergoing, that we want to have a strong board, but also specifically strong officers. So the chair, vice chair, and treasurer. And with that, actually, Vatsal gave his seat up. Then after voting internally in the board, we came up that Noah is actually going to be the chair. So this means that officially I'm almost ready to hand it over to Noah, except for that we also made a couple of changes to the association under, well, actually Vatsal being no chair anymore, me being a temporary chair as being the vice chair. And following from that, actually, I think actually the next slide is a harder story to tell, because it's much more intensive and dealing also with, well, the lives of people. From the earlier slides that I mentioned, Jörg and Matthias have been with us for quite some time and have been pushing the Magento Association forward. And without doubt, under their guidance, actually, they've been successful in a lot of different parts. However, as soon as we took over as a board so early this year, we wanted to actually talk about the structure and the finances also of the association in a different way. And it needs to be said that actually Jörg and Matthias were paid as employees under this association. And because of actually different reasons, but one of those reasons was definitely also the financial story, a financial restructuring that we were after, we decided actually to let go of Jörg and Matthias. So on a practical matter, it actually means that Jörg is going to sign off towards the end of this month. So that's the end of March. And Matthias is still going to be with us towards the end of May to help us actually transition into, well, ... That's basically where also Noah and Sergey are going to explain much more. But that being said, I think actually we honestly mean no harm with all of this. And we definitely believe that Jörg and Matthias both pushed the Magento Association forward big time. And it might also be something that you recognize that actually you've been visiting different Magento events worldwide. And then actually once the Magento Association was being represented by somebody, it was actually represented by these two. So it's almost with pain in our heart that we actually decided to actually let them go. And hopefully they can find their way, and hopefully maybe even in the Magento ecosystem. Let's see how that all that goes. But yeah, to maybe summarize it in just a few words, thank you so much, Jörg and Matthias, for bringing us at this moment here in time. Yeah, and that being said, it's a big move, it's a big change. So it's not only that we made a change towards the board, but also towards the organization here. I almost forgot, but could you move back one slide? Because there's another change that I forget, but it's not because I hate that person. I actually love that person. Some other person that actually was part of the initial board that we started off with in January, but actually is no longer in this picture. That's Jacob Winkler. Because of personal reasons, he actually needed to drop out. And that's actually one of our other losses besides Jörg and Matthias. Jacob has spent a lot of time actually into the Magento Association on a technical level, but he also spent a lot of time with us as board members, bringing in new ideas, bringing in his own enthusiasm, bringing in actually also his own way of energizing actually the board, and definitely all of that energy is not going. Now he's no longer part of the board. So again, also thank you, Jacob, for sticking with us for that time that you were actually there. So that being said, these are actually the real organizational changes that we were having. And well, as a temporary chair, it was kind of like my duty to announce these changes, and especially the leaving of Jörg and Matthias are big. But that being said, yeah, I'm just the vice chair, but we actually voted in how to say that, in a very positive way for Noah to become actually the real chair. And it was my duty to kind of like announce the organizational changes. But after all of these the changes of making into the board and the changes we're making into the employees, we're actually looking ahead to a lot of things in the future as well. And that's basically where I can hand it over with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of believe that we're actually in the right direction. I hand it over to
Thanks, Issei. Hey everybody. Thanks for spending my birthday with me today. Couldn't imagine a better way to celebrate than with everybody here. Yeah, I mean, a lot of change obviously going on. I will just a quick note on the new role that I'm stepping into. We discussed this after Vatzel had decided to step down from the role and stay on the board. And in practicality, I mean, since the beginning of this year, when we had several new board members come on board, and if you look back, I mean, really, the previous board members, the majority have either been here for brand new or just for the last year before that, and a couple folks from before that. There's a lot of new energy, a lot of new perspective, and the work that's been put in from the beginning of this year till now by the board members, by the officers, has been tremendous. I mean, I know that personally, we've rolled up our sleeves and we got under the hood. We've taken a look at things and tried to figure out, you know, what's been going well, what needs to change and adapt and evolve. And, you know, what we need to do to drive that action, to actually make sure it happens and we're not just talking about it. When he's saying, I spoke about the roles and who's going to be chair, vice chair, really what it came down to is we're all just going to keep with our sleeves rolled up, working hard for this community to go towards these new goals that we have and this next evolution, the next chapter of the Magento Association. So I am honored to be in the chair role. I appreciate all the congratulations. Quite frankly, from this perspective, it is the same stuff that I'd be doing, other than the fact that I get to take a little bit more ownership and leadership. And I will be reaching out. Part of my 90-day plan is to connect with as many folks as possible, to set up one-on-ones and to kind of go on a listening campaign. This is a very opinionated community, and I love that. I don't view that as a negative. I view that as a huge positive, because there's energy and passion. And so it's our job to harness that and to convert that into action and evolution. And so that's what we're here to do. On a larger, kind of bigger picture, I think an understatement. I mean, even this week, these last few weeks, I feel like times are changing more rapidly than they have for a long time. There's obviously some economic challenges across the globe that we're all facing. There's all kinds of political and social strife going on. That's always been the case, but there's definitely been an uptick recently. And we have a very, very unique position to be in, to be part of a community that not just has survived through the years, but also one that can drive economic independence. And I think that's something that we're going to focus on and make sure that doesn't get lost in all the activity we do. We are, in our core, folks that are involved with a platform that can actually help people grow their business, can create economic prosperity, can branch out of their own backyard to be able to move commerce, traffic, and currency, and in ways that you can't do it alone, and you can't do it without this vehicle. And so the way that we're looking at this is actually a very sacred duty. And it's something that the responsibility, and I don't say the responsibility is just on me or on this board or, just on the committees. This is really a responsibility of this entire community. Our job is to galvanize it and to really bring it together. And I think, every time there's massive change, there's also an opportunity to go under. Then there's also a time for opportunity. I'm in sales. I was thinking about this. I actually woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, I want to say this tomorrow, but like opportunity, it's, in the CRM, we all convert leads to opportunities. It's this Easter egg. It's this sort of like hidden treasure that we're all out there in the trenches looking to mine, and we're digging and we're breaking our backs and we're working our ass off to get there. And then you uncover these opportunities, and, they can slip through your hands super easy, or you can pounce on it and grasp it. And what we're looking to do is seize this opportunity of the moment. We took a look, and there was definitely some stuff to improve. Sergey is going to give a little bit of a financial transparency coming up here, which is also one of our new tenets or pillars, is utmost transparency. And we have had a couple down years, but we are batten down the hatches to create a new sustainable model. And that's part of the transition that we're doing in our staffing, along with the support from the board. So we'll go a little bit into that staffing piece, but just know that the moves that we're making are in line with basic business principles, right? Lemonade stand 101. You got to be bringing in more money than you're spending. And so we're getting to that point, but we're also using this opportunity to spend our money more wisely and more specifically, so we can focus on the areas that we make the biggest impact. One of the things that you mentioned earlier, that I think in Florida, we had a really galvanizing moment at Meet Magento Florida. There was a few of us there from the board, and we sat down with Adobe and Mage-OS representatives, at least from those organizations. And we had several over cocktails and dinners, conversations. And one thing that we truly realized is that Magento needs to stop operating sort of on this island. And that goes from events, from our mindset, from everything. We need to reposition ourselves as a competitive offering across the whole community. So Ollie will start to talk a little bit more about that with how we're doing that with events coming up here. But generally speaking, it means bringing more people into the fold. It means, the other associations, other community organizations into the fold. And it means going back out to outreach and engaging the community in other places where we can again, position Magento as a competitive option and offering, not viewing other platforms and other offerings as necessarily like the enemy, viewing them as competition, that also we have our firm place and we have the right to win business, we have the right to win market share, and we have the right to own a big segment of that market for where Magento open source fits in and into the larger community. And so I think that piece alone is something that we want to focus on, is bringing back that economic independence. So along with that, and it's kind of ironic because, you know, one of the things is more talk or less talk, more listening, and less action for the sake of action and more outcomes, you know, simplifying how we operate, again, focusing on what matters the most, and really taking that foundation that's been laid by the predecessors. And I want to be really clear, the opportunity that's in front of us is because of the Matthiases, the Slavas, the Josh Warren, every single person who has been part of this before us has laid this foundation. And we've created this evolution here where, you know, we, as the world changes, as the economy evolves, as the, you know, social economic, the social political environments change, as technology is changing rapidly, we have to do so as well. But we couldn't have gotten where we're at without that foundation that's been built. You know, if you look at what Matthias has built and what, as the executive director over the last several years, you know, he really solidified that sense of community. He brought organizations and Adobe to the table when there was some larger bridges that we had to overcome in the past, and he was able to, you know, along with the board and all the other members of this community, to create some bridges there and allow us to be in this position that we're at. And right now, you know, what we need to do is turn to this next chapter where we can adapt and scale. Let's take a look at what that means in practice. And this is where the rubber meets the road. We are moving, we are opening this up, first of all, to not bury the lead here anymore. We're going to be opening up several part-time roles. They're going to be announced right now, and then we're going to open up the application process, the job descriptions immediately after that. What we're looking to do is distribute the responsibilities and not centralize. So, you know, we're able to find multiple folks that are part-time, not full-time, but that specialize in different areas that complement each other and work together with a newly activated board overseeing all of that and bringing more folks into the committee and more members into the association in general and other associations into the fold as part of the community. So this is really a holistic approach that we're doing here to rethink who we are and how we can best provide value to our community and to ourselves and to our businesses. I think a really important piece of this also is that the salaries of all of this, the overhead that this creates, will still be less than our current overhead. It will create that financial sustainability and stability, and it will also carve out a larger piece of the pie to be able to go out and sponsor events that are not Magento Association events, to have booths at some of these industry events where you see all the other players in the industry have booths at, to be able to support things that are outside of our own, you know, sort of bubble that we all oftentimes exist in. Because the fact is if we continue to exist in that bubble, we won't continue to exist. I know everybody always says Magento is dead and Magento is dying and this and that. And the truth is, the only reason that Magento is still here is because of the folks in this community's passion. And I think it surprised a lot of people. It probably surprised Adobe after the acquisition. It surprised ourselves, the merchants and manufacturers and clients that we work with. And it's an undying passion that we are going to harness and use to not kind of slowly slide into obscurity, but instead grow into relevance. So let's make sure there's nothing else on these. I'm not going to go into the details of these different job descriptions at this point. I will say that, you know, the high level, the executive director will be focused on the overall coordination and execution, ensuring priorities are moving forward. We'll have a global community director who is going to be essentially the evangelist that's out there pounding the pavement, focused on engagement and growth, working closely with contributors and initiatives. And then we'll have an operations coordinator that will be, you know, much more part-time as well, but supporting the day-to-day operations, keeping everything running smoothly so that all of that admin work and the other pieces don't fall on the ED and the GCD's plates. Very small part-time role as a bookkeeper, but I think a very critical role. And they'll be working with the treasurer on the board here, Sergey, and also our accounting outfit that we have that files everything. So again, they're designed to complement the board and not to replace it. In fact, all of this predicates on the new energy and the new work that the board needs to put in, and really what the community then needs to follow with. So let's see here. Timelines. Applications will be open over the next 2 weeks. We're inviting everybody within the community to apply. People who are already engaged, people who want to take a more defined role. Maybe you know somebody that's outside of this, this Magento sphere that we're in. Please go and recruit, spread the word. We want to get as many qualified applicants as possible. And then from there, we're going to review, shortlist it. We're going to do some interviews. The final decisions targeted by mid-April. Really, the goal is to have by sort of mid to late April, especially going into Adobe Summit, some announcements to make so we can harness this energy and move forward quickly, because we don't want to take time. I know one of the past criticisms and sort of constructive criticisms that's been given of the Magento Association is things take too much time to act, and there's more deliberation and things like that. Getting inside the belly of the beast, I can tell you why. That's because we want to be careful and we want to be cautious. But there comes a time where overly cautious or taking a little bit too much time to think about something does yourself a disservice. So we're going to be moving swiftly and decisively on this and be able to announce this and move forward. We may not, the executive director and the global community director will be decided. We may decide to take a little bit more time on the other two roles, just depending. I will say just a quick note before we move on to some of the projects and initiatives, that there is a transition and overlap. As Hisay mentioned, we're going to have, Matthias is going to be with us for, another couple months. And so there will be some overlap in transition. We're not trying to do anything drastic. There's valuable tribal knowledge and energy and historical precedents that really makes a lot of sense here. And we don't want to leave this organization or community in the lurch. So there'll be systems access, knowledge transfer, ongoing initiative transfer, tools and platforms, sponsorship pipelines, and membership and program data. It's clean and structured. It's not a reset from zero. And with that, let's take a look at where we stand financially and what the outlook is on that to come. And please do submit as many questions through the Slido as possible. This will be a town hall, and we will have an opportunity to talk a lot more with y'all. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. Sergey.
Thank you, Noah. Greetings, everyone. Let's dive into our numbers. So, as part of my duty as a new treasurer, I had to make some kind of reconciliation to understand where we stand and what we can afford running forward. So, when we made this reconciliation, it became pretty obvious that we started our journey after Smith and Buckling with, let's say, nice buffer. And due to this buffer, we were able to operate for last several years. We still have enough money to make the organization what Noah has mentioned, but definitely what we understood that it's not enough to continue in the same way it was operated before. That's why we had to change our organizational structure. And as you see before, almost from, let's say, 80+% of our funds was spent to salaries, and it were higher than, let's say, we were able to gather with sponsorship. In terms of sponsorship, it's very clear that it's okay to double everything we collect from the community. More active community, more contribution we receive from community, more able to compensate Adobe at the community as well. It sounds pretty reasonable, and it helps a lot. And it was a basic motivation why initially, let's say, organizational structure was created, because there were, let's say, more hope that community will be a little bit more active and we can do more. But this is what we faced and what changes already done. The case is that probably figures for this year look a little bit frustrating, because like they're negative already. But the case is that we haven't received any compensation from Adobe, what is, let's say, arriving soon. And To be honest, we had the best January and February in terms of contributions from the community. Normally, these 2 months were not so active as we've seen this year. So thank you for your support. It definitely helps, and it gives us enough space for this maneuver, what we planned. We already planned several, let's say, investments into brand awareness of Magento that Oli will elaborate in detail. So it's already budgeted. We already prepared the budget till the end of this year and next year for part-time positions that Noah has described. And we made a stress test budget. So basically, even if we were able to gather as much money as it was possible before, we still be able to contribute back to Magento as a brand. But if we will be lucky to get more for this year than we were able to collect previously, we will be able to contribute more, because basically what we are trying to do at the moment to spend as much as possible in brand awareness in different initiatives that will make Magento as a brand stronger and, let's say, more noticeable in a global events. So that's basically it, what I wanted to share with you in terms of our financial situation.
All right. Thank you, Sergey. And I think we're doing pretty good on time, despite me yapping on for a little bit extra there, which, if you know me, it's probably to be expected. We want to hop right into projects and initiatives now. And this is where you get to look at some of the work that goes on in committees and elsewhere. And we'll have representatives from these committees to talk a little bit about them. Again, a shameless plug, we are looking for strong and experienced folks that have the passion and energy to join and help augment some of these committees. Some are full, and there are some spots that are available too to help add to it. So as you're going through this, think about yourself and think about others that may be, maybe a great fit to help harness some of that passion and energy into making an impact on the community. And speaking of community, let's start with the community council. And Francis, are you in the building? I think I saw you join us a little bit ago.
I am. I'm battling a very ill toddler, so I do apologise if you hear crying in the background.
That good noise cancelling, I'm sure, works.
Here is hoping. But yeah, already introduced. My name is Francis. I'm from your community council, and basically, I believe there is a slide that has been presented for me. I don't know if it's the next slide. There are our current members. If you would like to join, you're always welcome to. We are looking for more members if you need. But to get to the point, it's been a while since you've heard from us. A quarter has gone by. Let's just go over quickly what it is. I'll try not to take up too much of your time and bore you. We basically went to first principles. We have created a strategy document that guides all the work that we do. It's not public yet. It probably will be public very soon. But the idea behind it is it just focuses our attention. So whatever we have meetings about, whatever guiding actions we have, it's ensured to have the highest impact, or at least a great impact that everyone should benefit from. Now, we have had it in place for a while now. It is what's behind these bullet points you see on this slide. So if you can't understand my accent, you should hopefully be able to read. But let's go on board with the first thing. The last time you heard from us, it was about Magento maintainers. Now, we've been through this process once already. It's been rather successful, I would say. But you may have seen from LinkedIn that we are going through a second wave. It's not finalised, we're still in that process. So if you would like to be a maintainer, you're always welcome to put your application into the hat. Now, this is not a one-time thing. It's iterative, and we'll come back to it. And if you want to be a maintainer in 3 months, 6 months, next year, we want to hear from you. But I'm going to be upfront. We got a lot of applications, which I'm incredibly thankful for, right? It's really nice to see that. A maintainer has to be someone that's very experienced in Magento and has open source contributions. It doesn't have to be a history in Magento. It can be other open source. It can be in the community. But the idea is that we can see your skill and we can see your communication style so that we know that you're the right person to steward this project. If that is you, please let us hear from you. If you're early in that stage and you just want to contribute, the next thing I will talk about should hopefully help you. So contributions have been a pain in the past. We understand that. We are trying to make it better. And that is what the tool that hopefully you've heard about before, but if you haven't, it is called Forger, Magento Forger. Hopefully someone can post a link to it in chat if you haven't seen it already. But the idea behind this tool is for observability and contribution ease. So it's a Laravel project. It was built very quickly, but the idea behind it is you can see all the effort that goes into Magento every single day. You can see the PRs, you can see the issues open, you can see it all come alive. No more Magento is dead. You can see how much effort is going into this every day by us, users, Adobe, everyone. And more importantly, if you are looking to contribute and you don't know where, you can look at all the PRs that are open in a nice, easy fashion. You can see issues that maybe lag behind have been open for a while. You can look at labels and think, I don't really know where, but this is my speciality. And you can go find places that suit your needs so you can go contribute as you want. And it's to help make it easier for you and for us. And of course, everyone should be aware of our monthly community contributions that Adobe does. You put a thumb up in the thing that you're interested on, it gets picked up at the end of the month. Hopefully Forger makes that easier in future. We're not changing that process anytime soon. But the idea will be it helps inform the decisions that we make, and maybe we can make it better in the coming future with yourselves as a guiding light. And that's pretty much it. I really want to put out a big thank you for Ryan, board of Mage-OS. A collaborative spirit, we want to work closer with each other. So he's very nicely agreed to come join the council and be part of it. So I'd like to put a big thank you to him. But that is us. There are other things we'll be working for in the future. People who have applied for the maintainership should hear from us in a little while, don't worry. And if you want to apply now, that is more than fine as well. You're happy to reach out to us, fill in the form, talk to us on LinkedIn, your choice. But again, I don't like being on camera. I don't like being the face of things, so I'm going to end it here. And thank you all for your time. For the rest of your day, folks.
You're a fantastic face of things, Francis, and a welcome addition to this presentation and to this town hall. Thank you. Carl Simpson, the documentation committee, is going to join us here. Hey, Carl.
Good afternoon. How are you? My name's Carl Simpson. I'm here to present a little bit about the developer documentation. I was given the opportunity to present and just let you guys know where we're up to and what's coming in the future. Do I have some slides? I think I've got probably far too many slides. We can go to the next one. That's just our start. Yeah, so basically, I'm Carl Simpson. I'm here. I want to talk about the developer documentation project we've been building for the Magento Association. The merchant documents, as you can see, are really impressive. But from the developer side, if you need to know how the sales module plugin chain works or what's firing during the checkout, you're pretty much on your own. There's 344 core modules with no real structured developer reference, which is over like 3,000 documents, which is going to be quite hard for somebody to sit and bash out and write. So we've built a pipeline to help generate them. I haven't started this from scratch. I've taken over from David Lambauer, who wrote the initial master rag setup. I was fortunate enough to spend some time working with him. It's an amazing foundation that we can build on and start to generate the developer documentation from. The content was solid, but it was raw. We generated our MD files and they needed to be transformed and they needed to be made into, I needed to make them look pretty and it needed to look good on the front end. So I built like a HTML transformer that helped to take those MD files and style them all out into production ready code and get that out. That took Chris's design, styled it all out into the front end, as you can see from the master, from the merchant documentation. And we have got a good setup to be able to scan through, start to develop the developer documentation. We can go to the next slide. Yeah, so basically how it all works. So out of a conversation that we started between as part of the committee, we discussed, would it be possible to map the core and how possible would that be? It turns out after a little bit of thinking, we started to get a little bit of a pattern together whereby it's possible. So what does that mean? How does it work? It starts, we parse every DI XML, every events XML, all the module XML files across 344 modules. For the catalog module alone, that's over 2,000 components that get mapped. We pull it all from multiple sources, from the vector database, the source code, dependency graphs, the existing documents, configs so the AI gets a real balanced picture of everything that's going on. After we've got that as a kind of a model of what's going on, we then review that with more agents and start to review and ensure that that code and that output is as correct as it can be. So I introduce some extra levels and some extra and checks and verification just to ensure that what we've got coming out is as good as it can be. And that's all based from the source code from Magento itself. So it's not going to get any hallucinations. It's not going to see anything it doesn't want to. It's all from pure fact. Yeah. We can move across to the next slide. So basically, how does it all come together? So we're generating this, we're getting the MD files pumping out, and we've got a HTML transformer that kind of puts it all together. So as you can see from this document itself, and also the merchant documentation, there's kind of a theme that forms with the styling and how we're putting it out. So we're able to take the MD files that have been heavily verified and checked and checked and checked again, and then we're able to put them into a pretty styling front end and then output that for the front end so that everyone can use the developer documentation. Yeah, we can move through to the next one. What we're doing at the moment is, so from there, we've built some learning paths. That's going to be the next big thing that we're going to reveal, and with tutorials, how-tos, deep explanations, and quick references. It's really structured so that the developers can learn at their own pace and move through in a structured way that isn't just routing through the documentation to try and find the path that it is you're on. You can go from a point A to point B and learn along the way and have everything, understand the entire process that you're required to do for that. Where are we now? So at the moment, there's 5 of the core modules that I have fully documented: catalog, sales, checkout, customer, and quote. That's around 50 documents from the source code analysis, plus the tutorials on the guides and the learning paths, which is over 100 documents that I've got. The learning paths are what ties everything together. They help guide you on a journey from the beginner concepts right through to the advanced topics. It's not just about being a bunch of reference documentation that you can dip into. It's to be structured and help you work through and understand what it is that you're trying to achieve in more than just rummaging through documents to get there. Where are we now? The pipeline works. The infrastructure is built. We've got 5 modules done. What we need now is you guys. If you work in the sales module every day, your knowledge helps to make these documents better. If you know where all the bits live in the checkout, or you spent years deep in the catalog module, we need that input to tell us which modules to prioritize next. The Magento community has built this platform. Let's keep it up to date, and let's get the documentation as good as it can be. And I'll be quiet. That's it from me. I hope that was all right.
Fantastic. And you definitely get the award for slickest slides.
Well, the slick slides also go to show the HTML transform builder that was able to take these components that Chris had designed and put all these together so that what keeps getting generated is all standardized, and it does look really good, and it's a very, very nifty setup that it's been a privilege to be able to work from. I'm just a little guy here that's managed to get here in the Magento Association Townhall meeting to explain this. I'm very humbled and very very proud to be here. Thank you very much to everybody along the way who managed to enable that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. This is fantastic. And, not just for the folks that are here today, but this recording will be going live later as well. So there'll be plenty more eyes and ears that will land on it. So important stuff. Thank you. As well as important stuff. And speaking of folks that are here to do good and to contribute to the community, we got Vijay to talk about our community recognition program, some updates from that, otherwise known as the Ambassador program here. So Vijay, are you in the building to hop in?
Yep. Next slide. So these are the committee members. Right now we have myself, Oli, Noah, Rafael, and the Kuba. So all of these has worked throughout the last year to build this program. And we have launched this program this year, but last week of January, we have announced this program. And so far we have 120 plus ambassador sign up for this program. And we are growing fast. This program can be joined by everyone in the Magento ecosystem. You should not require to be an association member. So it is open for all. We are going to track the contributions. So right now we have added, like, for example, if you are attending any events, meetups, if you are speaking at any event, if you are publishing any blog post, doing any LinkedIn post, if you are doing the code contribution or content contribution, or you are a Magento Association member, then we are considering this. We still expanding this, but right now our platform, we have built this one, and this is the first year. So we are considering this as a beta year, and we are trying to learn from this, that how it is going to work, what are the different feedbacks we have, and based on that, we can make this program stronger. At the end of the year, we are going to announce the top ambassador, and they will get some special benefits from the Magento associations as well as from the different events also. Apart from that, once you logged in, when you create an account, when you log in, then you can see that you can able to connect your GitHub account. You can see the additional information. Like, for example, if you are a Magento Association member, then when it is going to expire, you can, if you are part of the Magento Association's any committee, and if you are contributing that time by, for example, let's say if you are a part of, let's say, events committee, and if you are doing some work for the Magento Association, or you are part of a documentation committee, then you can log that time also. Apart from that, you can submit a LinkedIn post, any blog post, you have done a podcast or webinars, you have, like, any community event, if you are attending or speaking, then all of these things you can easily upload directly through your account. Next slide. How you can apply for this ambassador program. Here you can scan, and through that you can get the registration page. Once you create an account, you'll get a sign-in information, and through that you can do it. We are looking for more and more people join for this program because this is open for all. Thank you. Yep, that's it, Noah, from my side.
Absolutely, yeah. And just to chime in there, as part of this committee too, is we're going to be sending these badges out shortly for folks that are ambassadors. And the idea, back to the sort of economic independence and prosperity piece of it, is that this can provide some validity. If you're going out there, if you're getting in front of a potential new business, if you have folks that are like that you're pitching to, or you're in an RFP process, or you're looking to win some new business, these badges and this is more than just sort of like an honor in the community, but it's something that you can go out and say, hey, look, we're legit, we're established, this is where we've contributed, and this is our role. So it adds some confidence to those buying decisions for the folks that are out there making those buying decisions and looking for the SIs, vendors, developers, tech partners, whatever you might be, to work with. All right, and that dovetails into a quick update that I will give on the memberships. So thanks, Vijay, I appreciate it, and it's always a pleasure to work with you on that ambassador program with the other folks there. So we have a small but mighty group on the membership committee. Want to welcome Mayor Bianchi, who came up to me at Meet Magento Florida and said, hey, why didn't you raise the paddle to get memberships when you did your Magento Association opening note? And I said, you're right, I should have. And it sounds like you just signed up to be part of the committee. So, and he did, and he joined us. And so he'll be bringing some of that new energy, passion, and outreach to our committee. We met recently, and we have our next meeting actually on Friday. And our Q2 and our 2026 focus is going to be focused on, two main things, which is growth and retention. And, anybody that is in business knows that retention is oftentimes overlooked, but more important in a lot of ways than net new. You got to be doing both, but you have to also continue to show that while you're bringing in new members, making sure the existing members are staying engaged. So we're shifting towards a more structured execution and consistency around that. And we're clarifying the membership value prop. A key focus is to be able to kind of reiterate that, make sure everybody clearly understands what they get and when. We are evaluating how tiers are structured and how benefits are delivered. Katie Wilson did some work with us last year to help kind of sort through some of that and had some outputs on that. So we're going to be taking some of that work that she did and executing on it. Again, not leaving track of our North Star to make sure that the experiences match the expectations at every level. And, as I mentioned earlier, part of what I'm going to be doing as chair and also the board liaison to the membership committee is reaching out to set up a lot of one-on-ones, go out there and listen, incorporate, and execute on the feedback that we're getting. This is community driven, but we need to be that galvanizing force. The next thing that we're doing is with CRM and data. We're looking to improve our data and our HubSpot CRM foundation. to support the growth that we're looking to do. We just reactivated HubSpot. We had paused on it briefly. So this last week, I believe, or earlier this week, I'm trying to remember. Today's Thursday. Okay. Yeah, it was earlier this week. We reactivated HubSpot. We're going to be moving to a more centralized, reliable system so we can better understand member activity, improve engagement, support more consistent outreach. We'll be doing things like, tagging folks that are ambassadors and also members, or folks that are ambassadors that aren't members. We're going to be, having campaigns to help engage folks, and we're going to be working with marketing as well to be able to help elevate voices and to be able to push that out there so our members become much more forward in this community. You have a chance to engage, just like Carl mentioned, to hop on and even on a town hall, or in other ways, putting out blog posts, thought articles, etc. So more consistent outreach and improved engagement. And then looking at the membership lifecycle, the overall experience, how we engage leading up to the renewals, being more proactive, communicating the value more clearly, and making renewal a natural next step, and also providing motivation to do like I did. As I try to drink my own Kool-Aid. We grew from just a lowest level membership, and we're actually went to gold, and with some in-kind went to platinum, and we're back to gold because we're just going to level it off across that. But the idea is to make sure that folks understand what the Magento Association stands for, sees the value in it, and wants to reinvest in it. Personally, I believe advocacy is huge, and economic independence. And if we can do that for our larger global community, then it becomes a no-brainer for everybody to be involved with it. And that is what we're doing, and that's what we have been doing. We're going to get more vocal around it. One of the ways we're going to get more vocal around it, and I'm not going to steal Ollie's thunder, but it was with events alignment. So membership and events are closely connected. I'm exploring ways to create more value through those relationships and maintaining balance for the event organizers as well. And again, that feedback loop, we're going to more structured ways to gather the member feedback. Yes, the one-on-one outreach is great, but we're going to start doing some like NPS style surveys, outgoing community input, to make sure that members are heard and we're evolving with them. So, we're not just sitting around in a boardroom saying, this is what the community needs and blah, 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 as we stuff sandwiches in our face or whatever the stereotypical boardroom scene looks like. This needs to be driven by where the world is evolving to. And in order to do that, we need to have our ears to the tracks with the world and have the world involved, and the world being our world, Magento and open source communities and e-commerce. The new roles and new ownership. So this is really another place where the rubber meets the road. We're going to align these new roles that I spoke about earlier in job descriptions with a strong focus on membership and engagement. Both the executive director and the evangelist, the global community director, are going to have a mandate to engage members, to grow membership, to provide that value, to show why we're providing that value. Because I'm a big believer that the Magento Association has been doing a lot. We maybe haven't been doing enough to tell people about what we're doing, show people what we're doing, and engage more folks into it. So this is where we have ownership as an organization and provide ongoing attention. What's up next? What we're going to be doing the rest of the quarter: CRM consolidation and visibility, clearer membership positioning and benefits, improve member engagement lifestyle, well, sure, lifestyle too, life cycle. I'm launching the feedback initiatives and, of course, defining the growth and retention targets. And with that, I think a nice segue into marketing. We tried to make this whole thing flow. I don't know, you guys can be the judge of that, if it actually worked or not, but there's a method to the madness here. Sergey.
Thank you, Noah. Let's make a deep dive to the marketing. And first, I would like to share this stage and show share my thank yous, and I believe yours as well, to the people committed for more than a year to what is happening in marketing committee. It's like Matt Harris, who is doing our podcast for more than a year. We already published 7 episodes, and I believe at least 7 are almost ready. Some of them already filmed, some of them to be filmed during next several weeks. Aaron and Sean, who built for us and migrated new website. If you see how it's improved, and you've been in our previous Townhall, probably you've seen what they do. You can just go to Magento Association website and see what is the difference. Yulia, who helps us a lot with LinkedIn, It was a great initiative started by Ola previous year, but when Ola had no more opportunity to help us with LinkedIn, US stepped in and helped it to move to the new level. And now we have newsletters not only via email, but also via LinkedIn. And Chris Dawson, who helps us with design. For example, you probably have seen our new episode of the podcast with a new intro screen developed by Chris Dawson, and I believe more beautiful things are coming up. Next slide, please, Noah. What I would like to share today is the increment. What was achieved during this quarter comparing to previous quarter, because I believe that dynamics, the trends show better what is happening and what we are doing. First of all, with LinkedIn, at the moment, there are more than 7,000 followers in Magento Association LinkedIn, and we increased it by 200. For sure, if you see a number of posts created, we were able to make less because our team reduced significantly from previous year. Let's say at the moment, we are trying to make all essential moves and publications, but it's definitely less than we were able to do a quarter ago. But we've started publishing a newsletter late previous quarter, and it already grew to almost 2,500, and we received at least 500 new subscribers this quarter. What else is important? Like episodes posted. We posted more, one extra episode comparing to previous quarter. So 3 episodes were posted before, 3 already posted. So in fact, previous quarter we posted just 2. This quarter we posted already 3, and I believe we will see more. And episode views are growing, and I would like to ask you to do me one favor, if it's not so complicated. Please open any link of our podcast episode, subscribe to it, like it, and reshare. Because at the moment, I see that even current number of attendees of this call can make a significant difference, number of awareness about our podcast. So thank you for your time. Come to us in marketing committee and help us with content, with your ideas and positive feedback. I know that like not every episode is, not every blog what we're doing is really welcome. Some of them like brought some negative reaction, but the case is like we need more content. We need your contribution. We need your blog posts on a website and different angles and different perspectives on what is Magento for you. Not only positive vibes make it stronger. More awareness about it make it stronger as well.
Hearing that Bob Marley positive vibrations. Thanks, Sergey, and for bearing with me. There was some updates on some future slides, so I had to do a quick refresh here. But yeah, I think the marketing, we've already had some folks. It was great because, like I said, an opinionated community. I love that about the community. There's been some, spirited feedback about some of the posts that we've done. That's fantastic. That's great. The response has been, come help make it better. And there's been a few folks that have raised their hand to do that already in this past week, that have reached out and already gotten involved with that, and including some other members of the board that have volunteered some of their team's time. So yeah, I mean, that's really what these community-driven initiatives are all about. We're all going to have different opinions. We're all going to hit the mark sometimes and miss the mark sometimes. But we're there to support each other. We don't just kind of throw peanuts from the peanut gallery. We get up on stage with each other, metaphorically, proverbially, and literally. So thank you, Sergey. Matthias is going to talk a little bit about the PSL and updates on the professional service listing, which I know quite a few of us are interested in, and quite a few of y'all out there are inquiring about. If Matthias is here.
I am. I have 2 mute buttons. One is physical, one was in Google Meet. I'm sorry.
Just in case.
So, good morning, evening, afternoon, everyone. And now I need to be really fast because now the battery of the headset is empty. Could you go to the next slide, please? Right. So, for those who don't know what the PSL is, it's an agency and service provider directory that we have. It will live on MagentoOpenSource.com. and we are working towards making Magento opensource.com magento.com eventually. That's the BHAG, the big, hairy, ambitious goal. The whole idea is that anyone can put together a modular profile for their service offering, the agency, the company. It will have a list view as well as a map view. And the whole idea with the modularity is that we didn't want to force anyone into sticky pieces of functionality where some of that you might want to have, some of that you don't. So you can basically put together the profile just as you like it to be. And the ranking or sorting, whatever you want to call it, will be based on overall contribution. So it's not an alphabetical ranking, as you might know. We're in the final steps. We have the technological basis set. We need to have a conversation within the board about then it starts with 111:: agency. That's the new hype. So the idea is that we need to have one or maybe two conversations about the exact pricing and the launch gift for all current members. These are the next big steps here. We finally got the payment figured out, so we're good to go. And that's the update on the PSL.
Thank you, Mr. Scriber. All right. Again, if you got questions, submit them through the Slido, jot them down. We have a few already, and we're going to carve out a little bit of time towards the end here. We have a couple more committee segments, some really important updates and announcements. So just so you know, after Ollie talks about events, which I'm very much looking forward to. I know it's an area that, with the board, we've been putting a lot of focus into on how we're going to reapproach this year. And he's going to talk a little bit about that. Then we'll have a Mage-OS update, which I'm super excited to hear from and to bring in, and then with Adobe update as well. Following that, we'll have some Q&A. So with Adobe Summit coming up next month, lots of excitement around there. So I know Ritesh will give us some jewels and gems. But first, Mr. Hunt, what's good? I'm glad you made it back from your client on site in time to join us today.
Thank you. I've never moved across town so quickly. So yeah, no, a pleasure as always. Thank you so much. For those of you that don't know me and haven't met me, my name is Ollie Hunt. I joined the Magento Association board last year alongside Laura Falco and VJ. So this is coming into my second year. Last year, I put my hand up for events from a board perspective. To take responsibility for events, and I've really kind of doubled down on that this year and said to the rest of the board that, look, for the foreseeable of my tenure on the Magento Association board, I really want to drive home the events piece. It's a big element. When I see so many people at different events, we get caught up until the early hours of the morning discussing all of the good, the bad, and the ugly around events, and what we need to do to address that moving forwards. So next slide, Mr. Oakenberg, please. So a big theme in this town hall that obviously both Yissa and Noah have really touched on is there is change. There is change that is happening and carrying through that theme. How do we navigate the change and, most importantly, the evolution now as we move forwards? And I want to just start off about thanking, firstly, the events committee. The events committee is the longest standing committee within the Magento Association. And for those of you that don't know, the Magento Association evolved out of the Meet Magento Association. That's what it actually kind of started life as, and evolved to become so much more with its wider representation, responsibility, and governance across the open source platform and the community of which it represents. Now, the events committee, as I say, the longest standing events committee, and has been made up of amazing Meet Magento organizers and very much a strong focus on the Meet Magento events. Now, their voices, their views, their contributions are absolutely fundamental and critical moving forwards. But events has to evolve beyond just our insular looking element of the Meet Magento events. So what we're doing at the moment is we are bringing the events committee effectively into board at the moment. We are setting the direction, we are setting a restructure and reimagining what the involvement and requirements are for the committees, and there may be subcommittees within that as well, for what the new events look like moving forward. So firstly, huge thank you I continue to work on a sort of one-to-one basis with a number of the organizers of the Meet Magento events to both take counsel, to help with evolution and help with some of the concepts that we're looking to sort of land now moving forwards. So if we kind of look at the events holistically, we can kind of group them into what I'd refer to as the insular, the inward-looking, the community inward-looking events. Meet Magento is our flagship event. We've seen a great number of Meet Magento events across the globe over the last few years. And I think last year was our widest spread of Meet Magento events over the year, which is a huge thing to celebrate. Now, you've also got the Adobe event. So the Adobe Summit, for example, and what is our kind of involvement there and how we're involved in those pieces. There are then probably the ones that are closest to my heart, which is the Magento meetups. Those are the amazing little events that, you know, start as 6 people and a dog in a pub discussing Magento. And how do we actually invigorate those? How do we provide a sort of framework and support to see more of them coming on? There's some very, very successful Magento meetups that have been running for long periods of times, and there's new ones to come in and start. We also have what I'd refer to as the community independent events. So Mage Conference, the Mage Titans events that used to run, Meet Commerce that Kuba runs, for example. Now, these are events that are delivered independently by the community, where Magento is either a real focal point or has a big play in it. How do we support that? How do we provide further enablement? What is our role to play with those guys, and how can we support in those elements? And then the 2 new ones that we're, well, not necessarily new, but the 2 that we're kind of pushing on with pilots this year is what we refer to as both the agency roundtable and the pavilion events. So first of all, I'll talk to the roundtable, and I have to call out the team at Akuva, Ozzy and Neil particularly, that have now run, and correct me if they may say I get this wrong, I think they've done the 5 editions to date of the agency roundtables. They run in spring and summer in the UK, and they are generally in line with, I think coming up is in line with the retail tech show, and then the one in autumn is around e-commerce expo. I've had the privilege and the pleasure of attending these events, and they generally are attended by about 50 or 60, I think is the numbers of agency reps and heads from the Magento ecosystem within the UK market. So what we've done this year is we've committed to support that event for the spring and the autumn edition of that, to work with Ozzy and Neil to fundamentally create that agency roundtable playbook and case study, to then be able to go out and find partners in other countries and other territories where we can go, here is a framework, here is a model that you can run agency roundtables around the events within the country that you are there, because they're the closed room opportunities. There are no merchants. It is the agencies around the table, and they are buzzes of contribution. Those are really, really important. And so this year is the first pilot. What I'd say is, as we work through all of this, if there is any partners out there that are in other countries, the Netherlands, Germany, the US, where like I'd like to understand a little bit more about this, and we're very keen to see how we could bring that initiative to life within our region, we won't start having those conversations. And then the other big one is the Magento pavilions, and I think this has been probably the hottest topic of conversation with anyone that will give the time to listen to me go on and contribute to that, is how do we take the Magento logo outside of our little ecosystem? Well, little, it's not little, it's bloody huge. How do we take Magento outside of that? So again, we've committed this year to an initial pilot scheme, and a massive thank you to Hoover that have been organizing these pavilions. There is, and for the Dutchies on the call, I'm going to absolutely butcher this, Webwinkelvakdagen, which is on the 25th and 26th of March this year, has the pavilion. There are 7 agencies that are on there. At least 3 of those have recently joined as Magento Association members, and we've contributed to support a couple of those agency booths, shall we say, on the pavilion that is there. And it's really about us getting behind the agency partners and the likes of a Hoover that are creating the platform to fly the Magento flag at those wider e-commerce and industry events that are going on. So pilot is running for Webwinkelvakdagen, and then e-commerce expo in the UK, which is on the 23rd, 24th of September as well. And again, the whole point with this is to be able to create playbooks to be able to create the frameworks to then be able to work with other partners that are doing the amazing job that Hoover are doing to actually facilitate, to organize and to create these pavilions. So at this moment in time, from an events perspective, we're definitely in a period of transition. We're in a transition where we're creating the new structure and looking at what is the MA's responsibility with regards to events in a holistic sense of that. For me, it falls into 3 areas. It is governance, particularly when it's the owned brand event of Meet Magento. That's where we do have to have those elements of governance that are there, that there is consistency there, that we are supporting the organizers effectively to be able to deliver these events, and that we're representing the community effectively as well. Working very closely at the moment with Jamie Huskisson of JH, who's organising Meet Magento UK in July this year. They've just announced actually that date with it, with regards to how we can actually elevate the marketplace and particularly the agency representation within the marketplace, with benefits of being an NMA member at those elements. The other thing that we're looking to do, and great conversations with Ryan over in Meet Magento Miami and the team at Mage-OS, is when we're at Meet Magento, we have the Magento Association booth, shall we say. Often you'll have seen Matthias perched on the stool with a pull-up banner that is there. How do we evolve that to become the wider community representation? So the MA is not there to just represent itself. The MA is there for the whole of this community. Mage-OS is a part of that community. Adobe is part of that community. Everything else that forms into that, that is our opportunity at our flagship ecosystem event to have the community representation that sits there. Absolutely kind of bringing all of that together. Yep, again, massive thank you to the events committee. We're going through in this quarter now that kind of, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's look at how we structure this. How do we service the different types of events? How do we facilitate? How do we create frameworks? And how do we enable? So big call outs again, Hoover, Akuva, thank you for being part of these pilot schemes. They are amazing to be doing. Thank you very much to the events committee. I think the last 2 quick slides from me, and then I will shut up and all answer questions.
Yeah, we probably want to zip through these 2. Speaking of Mage-OS and Adobe.
No problem. So just real quick run through on there. Meet Magento India and Meet Magento Florida, absolutely standout events that were delivered at the beginning of this year. First pavilion coming up with WebWinkle on March 25th and 26th. And then you've got the community events, Hoover Developers Paradise in Spain, and then you've got Adobe Summit. So you can see here I've kind of highlighted the new sort of event formats, I suppose, where we are looking to support and get involved with those as well. And then the last slide on there, we've got, there's just the one that we're waiting for a TBC on, which is the Meet Magento's Philippines, which there's conversations with the other Southeast Asia organizers to happen about kind of unifying those to a Southeast Asia one, and then the final pavilion in our pilot scheme of Ecom Expo here in the UK on the 23rd and 24th. We will be making updates to the event section on the magentoassociation.org/events. There'll be a new email as well. It will be the formal association email with regards to events. And ahead of the next town hall, there's going to be quite a lot of updates that come out with the direction of travel with taking events moving forwards. That is it. Thank you very much.
So critical to everything that we're trying to do and evolve to. And Ollie, you've been a huge part of and driving force of kind of that vision via the events vehicle, which is intrinsic to the Magento Association. I'm really excited for this update here. David, welcome. You and I were the partner. You and I joined about 15 minutes before everybody else and got to hang out for a little bit. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just was 15 minutes early because I had to prepare my slides, right? All right, I want to talk about 2 things. My first slide is about what we've done in the last few months and what we are trying to constantly do. So the latest version of Mage-OS 2.2 is out. It has a bunch of the latest security fixes in there, and we also continuously work on, especially Artem, on the admin theme and the admin theme experience, which is, I would say, the biggest feature that Mage-OS came up with yet in terms of complexity and just the huge size of that single project. So this is amazing. Besides that, we are running more and more hackathons. For now, we did it remote, which was just a bunch of guys and obviously girls sitting in a Discord, like gamers, open mic all day long, screen sharing here and there, and working towards something cool. Everyone had to order their own pizza, but hopefully we get more and more in-person hackathons going as well. We're also seeing that Mage-OS is getting more traction for production usages, which gives us the feedback that we actually need. So people are actively using Mage-OS nowadays because it's getting better and better. We have this Mage-OS Labs repository or organization on GitHub, which is, as the name says, a lab for everyone who wants to participate into Mage-OS. And I come to that in a second, but these lab modules eventually go into the main core. So we are working currently on a bunch of different modules that are actively developed right now, which I just added a few here because the slide was too short to list them all, but I think they're all pretty interesting. So we have an admin activity log, so you can actually see what your admins are doing, which configs are they changing. We're getting a block module very soon, once that a lot of stores just need, but was never there in the core. We have a passkey logging and page builder widgets, and we are actively working on an interactive installer. So I don't know when it was the last time you tried to install Magento, and by just following the documentation, it is a bit rough. You have to know so much about it. You have to know about not only the application itself, but also you have to know about the entire stack. You have to ideally know about Redis, Varnish, RabbitMQ, Elastic, whether you want to install Elasticsearch or OpenSearch. Then you have your database, Nginx or Apache. So a lot of different things. And if you're trying to set it up correctly, it takes a while, I would say. So this interactive installer is meant to be a one-liner that we can paste on the website, just like any other bigger application, just like a brew install kind of a thing, which is not going to be brew, but you can imagine. So and then it does all the magic for you. So that was the first part. I wanted to take the time to talk a little bit about the vision of Mage-OS, because we also got a new board last year, I think. And Mage-OS started as a kind of a fallback when Adobe acquired Magento, and no one knew what is going to happen. So Mage-OS was kind of created out of this position where we just wanted to be ready if whatever bad things could have happened. Now that we kind of achieved that, yeah, Mage-OS, Magento, both, it's all alive, so it's all good. So Mage-OS doesn't need to be a fallback anymore, but now we can be an innovative part of the entire ecosystem, which is getting more and more clearer what we actually want to achieve. So in the past, and still, the entire Magento community is so big, but also so fragmented. We don't have this one big umbrella where we're all in, and that's the only thing. I always compare it to the Laravel community, where you basically have Laravel.com, Laravel News, and the Laracast. But that's pretty much it. Everyone is kind of under this umbrella. We don't have that in this community, and it's not a bad thing. But what we want to achieve is to get the innovation out of all of the different fragments of the community, take the best parts and build them into Mage-OS. So one question that you could ask is, why is MageRun not part of Mage-OS or even Magento? I'm looking at you, Francis. You're the one who can help me with that, like bring stuff into the core in the end. But we are asking these kinds of questions, like why is MageRun not part of any core? Why is the Varnish VCL that PTAP did with Thijs from Varnish himself, why is that not the default Varnish VCL? So there are so many different modules out there everyone is using, but you always have to have that knowledge to install it after you install Magento. So that's where we want to head for the next few months. We look out what are the big projects in the ecosystem. Can we support them, and can we get them into the core? So this is one part. The second part is we are obviously looking at all the AI stuff that's happening and all the other ecosystems, e-commerce related ecosystems. They do AI, right? And we obviously we do it as well in our daily life. Me myself, I haven't written a single line of code this year. I'm coding, but it's different now, and it's getting better and better. So we, or the industry itself, is not only lowering the cost of producing software, but we can also innovate faster. So by that, we are also bringing a lot of new AI features into the whole system. Entire sections need to be rethought of. For example, Damien from Greycore, he's working on a ChatGPT-like interface for your content section. So instead of using a page builder, no matter what kind of page builder it is in the end, but instead of using a page builder and trying to click landing pages together based on components that are predefined, he's working towards a ChatGPT-like interface where you just prompt, hey, I have like these 10 new products for my Easter catalog. Can you build me a landing page for that? And maybe even go as far as, can you also set up a newsletter campaign for it as well? So these are things that we are actively working on in the Mage-OS ecosystem. And yeah, that's the goal for the next few months. That's pretty much it.
David, thank you so much for sharing that, and especially appreciated, the active calling out to bring more folks into the fold too. That's what we're trying to do here. So and I think this may have actually touched on some of the questions that we have in Slido, which we will get to here. I know we're coming up on the half hour here, but we have some more time buttoned in here. I want to move over to Ritesh for the Adobe update. This is going to be exciting. We are going into summit season. So I'm assuming there's some stuff you might want to share about that, Ritesh.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I'm going to make a request next time. I'm a little bit further up the agenda, so I don't have to do my speed talk. But I will do that.
Yeah,
I will do that for today. I'm going to skip out on the pleasantries, but hello, everyone. Good to see everyone joining, spending your time with us. Like Noah mentioned, Adobe Summit time is here. It's actually 1 month later than how it's typically been in March. Felt like that was more time for us all to prepare, but it still sneaks up on you. Anyway, it's going to be an exciting event. As you might guess, there's going to be a focus on AI in all of our Adobe products and offerings. And in addition to just being on the show floor, Commerce will actually be hosting a special Commerce Cafe as part of the actual show. And if you are attending Summit and you would like to stop by the Commerce Cafe, reach out to me for an invitation. And it'll be a chance to network, learn from all of our commerce services team, including yours truly, and relax in a different setting. It's sponsored by some of our key commerce partners, folks from the ecosystem. So it'll be great. And I'd like to connect with as many people as I can that are attending Summit. So please keep that in mind. Moving on to the next slide. 26 is going to be a busy year for us. As we continue the adoption of ACCS, which is our multi-tenant true SaaS solution. I've mentioned it a couple of times, so you've all heard about it. As we move into that direction, the opportunity here for this community is to participate in the new Exchange marketplace, in the new App Builder app development. We've obviously have, for anyone interested in building those App Builder apps, product and tech support, the opportunity to possibly highlight or promote your team or your particular app capability. But also recently, we've now introduced an App Builder MCP to help accelerate some of the building or even migration of a PHP extension over to App Builder. I know some folks in the community are already participating in that program, but we're looking to get more people onto that. So if you're interested, again, reach out to me. Last but not least, the next slide. I just want to remind everyone that with ACCS, we now have an additive capability and offering. Nothing changes with what we're already doing in terms of Magento open source support. but of course, we have an additional offering in the mix. And with that, I want to thank you all for spending time with us today. Please get involved with Magento Association if you've been thinking about it, one way or the other. Reach out if you're interested in the app builder development. Reach out to me specifically. And again, I look at my time here with the Magento Association. It's been over 3 years now. I definitely appreciate everyone's welcoming me into the community and also the support of the broader ecosystem. Super excited to, with the board changes, I think we'll move in a right positive direction. And obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing some of you at Summit. With that, Noah, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, and we appreciate you too, Ritesh. That's not just lip service. You have been a absolute force in connecting these different pieces of the community, and do so with grace and positivity and true dedication. It's not window dressing. You're not just out here fogging the mirrors. You're pounding the pavement. You show up at the events. You advocate for this community, and you also bring in important elements from Adobe as well to this community, which can get lost as well. And I'll say, just the marketplace, it's a fantastic place to contribute as well. If there's an app, if there's an integration, if there's something that you'd like to build for, Adobe SaaS, for Magento, those opportunities are out there as well. So I am highly appreciative of you and the support of Adobe with the Magento Association, and a lot of the work that really Matthias did to help create some of those bridges as well over the last few years, because it wouldn't have happened without that. Personally buttoned in an extra half an hour here just because I know things can flow over. I will say that I will take the lessons learned from this, and I know we're a couple minutes past, and I'd like to be on time with stuff, but we do have some time here, and it looks like there are still quite a few folks that are around, and we have a few questions. So if you'd like to stick around and you have a couple more minutes, then we can move over to some of those questions now. Let's see. Matthias, do you want to queue those up? I have them up as well.
Yeah, I got it right here. I think we can get through it rather quickly, at least through a few. So first question from Eric Hansen. Can you share the slide deck at the end of the presentation? I'm pretty sure the answer is yes.
I suppose, just for you though. No, we'll be sharing. Oh, look, there was even a really cooler slide Ritesh had here that I didn't go to. Oh, bad for your eyes though. You got to have some backlighting. Yeah, no, we'll share the deck. The recording will go live as well, and so this will all be posted and shared. And also, I believe Sergey has also shared the job descriptions, job openings, and links, and we'll put those out on social as well.
Right. Then next question that we have: how will Magento Association empower merchant ambassadors, not just developers, to build the social-proof B2B influence to win back the boardroom from Shopify Center?
I can take a stab at that. I read that at first as like the ambassador program. I think that maybe this is anonymous, so I'm not sure who asked that, but I think it's not about the ambassador program per se, but it's talking about advocates, evangelists within the merchant community for the Magento platform. I would say that has been a huge focus of what we're doing. I think that it's also understanding where they will engage and where they won't. For instance, some of the stuff that Ollie's talking about different events like Magento Philippines, there's certain things where let's not try to make those about bringing in more merchants. They may not happen there. They might, or they may not, but let's go to where they're at. And I think that the engagement of making Magento a commercially viable option for platforms, getting out to some of these other events, re-engaging the community in their own sort of turf versus forcing them to come to all of our events. I think those are all geared towards spreading this out and getting outside of our own bubbles and our own sort of echo chambers. And when you do that, you start bringing more people into the fold. It's kind of a sort of giver's gain type thing. So I think that's been one of the big talking points that we've had internally here about how to do that. The other part too is to, surface that, I've been part of plenty of committees where we've had merchant ambassadors that are part of those committees. And I think that, there needs to be a stronger call to bring those existing merchant ambassadors into committees to have more involvement, more engagement, to be better represented. Things like, I know Robbie was making a big big push for, having them coming up on stage at like Meet Magento Florida, and, having agencies bringing, SIs bringing their merchants to do case studies and talks like that. And then the other part of it too is to really, for these new roles that we're going to be looking for the evangelist and for the executive director, for them to have this, it's not merchant first is not the right word at all, but to have a firm kind of focus on the economic side of this, which is ultimately where the merchants that we all serve, or those of us that are tech, do SIs or technology or developers or designers, we already have that focus, to bring that back to a focus from the leadership across the board for the MA. So also open to other ideas. I think the other part of it is listening, and what I mentioned earlier today, which is we need to listen more. If folks have out there, I see Ben, you're already putting some ideas through in the chat, going out there and asking, and not acting like we have all the answers to the questions when they get asked of us. I think that's going to be really important, and that's part of what we're planning to do this year.
There's two elements with it. Obviously, when we look at the membership and the benefits, the value that being a member of the MA comes in, we have to be considering the merchant value as well for them to come in. Big one from the event side is obviously how do we ensure that the core events of Meet Magento are really kind of nailing those merchant topics that they require, but getting the logo out there with the pavilion model to web bingles, e-com expos, retail, all of those shows, so that people are seeing it and enabling the best practitioners, the agencies that understand the platform inside out, to rep that to the merchants is the key. And I think that's a big one, is when people start seeing the logo and they start seeing the agencies that are repping it and having the conversations, that's where we really do get to touch the merchant from that perspective as well. But across the board, we do need to be considering how do we get the merchant line on this?
Surfacing the case studies as well, not just at events, but I know internally we're a platform agnostic agency, just as a personal anecdote, but we're starting to see Magento open source more and more as being a leading option, more as people are wanting to own their own data, they're wanting to have more control, as more things are being infused that make it quicker, faster, and replicate that experience that people have been sort of trying to shift to SaaS for. And all of us that have been putting our heads down and working to keep up with that and still maintain the flexibility and power of the Magento platform, we need to be evangelists and talk that, and not only have us be those evangelists, but have the merchants that we work with be those evangelists, and start getting testimonials, quotes, having them again talk in public. But it's not a silver bullet for any of this, but it is definitely, when you focus on something and start marching that direction, you can assure yourself you're going to get closer to that place than if you don't focus on it and are going a different direction. So let's talk more about that. That's a really important topic. But let's get a couple of these other questions going in here.
I think this one is easy. How's the relationship with Adobe? It's good to know that they were in Florida and are matching sponsorship. Is that a one-on-one match? Who wants to take that one? Ritesh?
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and start this one off. And look, it is that, and I hope we've heard this throughout, be supportive of the community, definitely want to work hand in hand, and the match program. And so we continue to support Magento Association along with some of our events in the ecosystem. The match program is just that. It is one-to-one match for contributions that come in through sponsorships and memberships to the Magento Association. And it's just a gamified way to make sure that everyone, we get the energy going on all sides, and then, be able to just sort of double that. Just as a corporation program, we have sort of a similar program internally for employees, where when we donate to organizations, Adobe sort of doubles that. So we've taken that sort of concept and applied that to our Magento Association sponsorship as well. Looking forward to seeing that you guys contribute enough so that we make Adobe have to run out of funds in that donation. But I would say, relationship wise, things can't be more positive, especially in the few years that I've seen. It is a dedication from Adobe, but also a testament to all the support of the community as well, making sure we each understand putting us in each other's shoes in order to understand and relate a little bit better. So no qualms, no issues here for now. If you have any more anonymous. If you have any other questions on how that works or Adobe's sponsorship and support, feel free to reach out. We can talk about it.
I think you probably answered that best as anybody could.
Yep.
I don't think
There
any other feedback is needed until follow-ups. But we have somebody who's not anonymous.
Hooray! Thanks, Ben. Is the rise of LLM tools being incorporated into MA, if at all, and especially into how contributions, issues, PRs are handled? Case law is not settled. Well, part of what the ambassador program does, that is indeed not powered by AI, but we need to be able to provide an unbiased way to rank the relevance of a contribution. And we try to do this within the team, but the results varied. They didn't even vary from team member to team member, but they also varied from, how would I call this, how their day went. And that's when we decided, okay, this is not stable enough for what we want to see. So we have an AI powered recommendation with the reasoning for a certain rating, and that needs to be approved by 2 team members by now. So that's what I can say in that regard. In terms of contributions, issues, and PRs, I don't know. Francis, Laura, any takers?
Definitely want to look into using AI in order to handle the PR process. We'll have to work with Adobe on that. But oops, I'm not on camera. But yeah, I mean, I think we're all using AI for writing our code, reviewing our code. It goes to stand that we would be putting that process into the Magento process, PR process.
Ben also mentioned that he asked that question before the docs presentation, which incorporated some of that as well. I mean, I used it to beautify one of my slides.
Well, we definitely have one. My favorite person asking the question was possible future contributor. There will be a chance to see Mage-OS and Magento Association pushing and advertising features released under their umbrella as their competitors do. Any takers?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to find it so I could copy and paste it in here, but yeah, go ahead.
No, I want to rehear the question. I didn't understand it correctly.
All right. So I think there's a small typo. I will rephrase it. Will there be a chance to see Mage-OS and Magento Association pushing and advertising features released under their umbrella as their competitors do?
Yeah, obviously, I would say.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we? Of course, no matter, if I understand correctly, if the MA does something amazing, why wouldn't we celebrate that? And other way around, right?
I think that's really getting at the core of what we're trying to do here, which is let's stop all moving in separate directions, or at least in the same direction in separate places, and let's create some unified direction with all of that. That means unified exposure, unified engagement. We're still all going to be doing different things, but the efforts will be coordinated a lot better, and including advertising, marketing, awareness, engagement.
And it was never different in the entire ecosystem, right? Like back then, when we had sub-organizations like Magento or the Dutch community, Dutch Gento, or there was XDN or whatever it was, there was never ever a single time where one did something and the others didn't celebrate. We always do. That's the spirit of the community. That's why we're so big. And that's so unique if you look at all the different communities out there. Look at, I don't know, I don't want to name any, but I never saw something like this. So that's just the core of what we are.
Yeah. And I think it's our mandate to galvanize that, even more so. And I think that's where, it's what's kept us to this point. And I think it's what can get us to this next evolution. So I appreciate the question, and I appreciate that you are hopefully moving from a possible future contributor, Mr. Possible or Mrs. Possible future contributor, to a future contributor, or maybe even a present one. It is absolutely more than just an e-commerce software. Okay. A couple more questions here.
Is there any effort going into simplifying Magento, for example, creating a product per variant instead of allow merchants to have stocks for custom options?
I have a take on that from the Mage-OS perspective. Might be different from the Magento source perspective right now. Not sure.
Yeah, go ahead, David. I'm not going to be able to offer a ton from that as I'm a business developer and not a code developer.
Yeah, we did an annual survey, right, on the state of Mage-OS, and one big outcome of that was developer friendliness, but also admin friendliness. So there are tons of features that are very well suited for large e-commerce systems, large enterprise businesses, but not so much for SMBs. So we try to, like at Mage-OS, we try to add features and make other features optional again, so things get easier, not only from a developer's perspective, but also from the user perspective. If that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. Final question. This is not a light topic at all, and probably one that we could take a whole half day or a week on.
Yeah. What are MA's thoughts on potential loss of jobs work within the Magento community due to AI? Any ideas on how to pivot? Who wants to start? I think we have like 50 people. That means we have 90 opinions.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
I have my thoughts. But I've been talking a lot here.
My thought, maybe I can share how I
Please.
see things. It's that it's accelerating stuff. So I don't necessarily see that the jobs per se go away, but I think that it's just more value that can be generated for a merchant. So in that regard, I personally, when I look at it through a developer lens, I'm not really concerned, because all I got was a set of new amazing tools to work with. I mean, Carl and David already touched upon that. I don't see it as a threat. It's just a different tool. I mean, what was it, like 25 years ago, we were working in VI on the live machine, and we weren't really that fast in developing stuff. And then we started building our own working pipelines to do all these things, and we just make things faster than we used to work in the past. And AI, yeah, it's massively faster, but I don't see it as a big problem. I don't see it as a threat. You can just handle more clients in the same time. That's how I see it. Opportunity instead of problem.
I would echo that. I think if it ever comes to the point where people are losing jobs specifically because of AI, we're probably a ways off from that. In fact, I think it's almost the opposite. I feel like some of the other platforms out there maybe would be affected by that a lot more, because they're less customizable, they're less flexible. The beauty of this community and of the core sort of idea of Magento is that it's a vehicle. It's not necessarily the end all be all. It's not a product. It is a service. I mean, in a lot of ways, and that service is driven by all of us that are using that vehicle to get other people down the road. And so, the human ingenuity, the strategy, road mapping, the oversight and architecture, all the different pieces of it, that make things unique and make it less sort of carbon copy. The Magento part of it, I think the AI allows us to do more of that and less of the stuff that kind of holds us back. And like you said, Matthias, and I think it's mentioned here, that it's just going to help us do accelerate, the work that we do, serve more folks and become more competitive with people that are kind of looking for that sort of, easy button Shopify, Amazon type thing, expecting it, but also needing the complexity of what we can provide with Magento. There's also a really good discussion going on in the chat threads here. So feel free to come off mute and actually talk. So it's not just my voice. Yeah, maybe it's a LinkedIn post that we can make and continue this healthy conversation that's going on in the chat thread. Be a good topic for sure. And I think something that could actually bring engagement more into us into our Magento world as we talk about it more. I think it's a place where we win. Marks.
Yeah, I think that Magento Association, like back to the point about conducting surveys, this is actually an area where we can go beyond perception and anecdote and hype and just the noisiness of the moment, and actually, assess, and use that as a chance to even introduce yourselves to merchants who may not really even understand or appreciate that Magento Association is there, to serve their needs. really get some insight into actual like on the ground trends, and then we can work on it. But I do think that this Ryan from Mage-OS made a really good point that Magento's in an interesting space because it actually, this moment really does make this very high context, relatively complex thing become a much more viable option, especially when you stack that on top of the the mountain of improvements that have come since I kind of stepped away 5 years ago with Huva and other projects. It does feel like a moment and a necessary moment to do this kind of engagement. If we look at what my friend Oz from Akuva was saying, which is that there is just a general attrition. Shopify is always the default, and I'd love to see that not necessarily be the case.
Mic drop. All right, y'all. I think that was the last question we had on here, and we're also at my unofficial half-hour extension that I put on my calendar in case we needed to go over. So I'd love to call it a wrap for the day. A lot of us stuck around here for this last piece. I am tremendously appreciative of everybody that joined. The energy. We got some work to do ahead of us. I think we got the right folks that are ready to do the work. We set forth from here, and I'll hopefully see a lot of y'all out in the field, different events and et cetera over the next quarter until our next town hall. Please do engage in all the different ways that we put forth on the call today, and have a great weekend. I guess we're not quite there yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Just take a 3-day weekend. Go ahead. Tell your boss I said it's cool. And if you work for yourself, tell yourself it's cool. All right. Much love, y'all. Thank you.